Thank you for joining me for this lesson on special right triangles. You recently learned how to use the Pythagorean theorem to find sides in right triangles. But to do that, you had to know two side lengths. If we know some angle measures, we can use formulas to find the sides in special right triangles. So first off, you need to know that you have a 45, 45, and 90 degree angles, or 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degree angles. So start off by confirming that you have one of these types of triangles. In a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the two legs are going to be equal, and the leg times the square root of 2 gives you the hypotenuse. This means if we know the hypotenuse, we can take the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2 to get the leg. While many teachers might ask you to leave your answers in terms of square roots, I actually want you to use your calculator and put these as decimals. In the 30, 60, 90 triangle, you're going to have a long leg, a short leg, and a hypotenuse. The short leg is always across from the 30 degree angle. The long leg is across from the 60 degree angle, and the hypotenuse across from the right angle. The hypotenuse is the short leg times 2. The short leg, therefore, is the hypotenuse divided by 2. If you know the long leg, or you could find the long leg by taking the short leg times the square root of 3. Let's look at some problems together. In our first problem, I see that I have a 45 degree angle and a 90 degree angle. This tells me that it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So I'm going to pull up those formulas. So my formula says that in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse is the leg times the square root of 2, or the leg is the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So I have to figure out what I have. Notice the side labeled 6 is a leg. It is next to the right angle. It's not across from. So I know that the legs are equal. X is also a leg. Since X is a leg, X is equal to 6. Y is the hypotenuse. The formula says that the hypotenuse is the leg times the square root of 2, or 6 square root of 2. Again, many books might leave your answer as this. I want to go ahead and change this into a decimal using your calculator. So using the calculator on my computer, I will do 6 times, on mine I do 2, and then to get to the square root, I have to go second. Then my square root comes up. Okay, so you can notice at the top, it now tells me that 6 times the square root of 2. You have to hit equal. 6 times the square root of 2 is 8.485. We're going to round our answer to 1 or 2 decimal places. In this case, I would say 8.5. One quick way to kind of confirm that this makes sense. Remember, the hypotenuse is always the longest side in your right triangle. Okay, in this problem, again, start by looking at the angles so you can figure out what kind of triangle you have. I see a right triangle marked and a 60 degree triangle marked. This means I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Find the correct formulas. So now that we have our formulas there, we have to determine what we're starting with. So the side marked 10 is across from the 90 degree angle. That means it's my hypotenuse. So I'm going to look down in my formulas and find the ones that use hypotenuse. I can tell here that the hypotenuse is the short leg times 2. And that means that the short leg is the hypotenuse divided by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one. And looking at my picture, the short leg is across from the 30 degree angle, so that would be A. So A is the short leg. That means it equals the hypotenuse divided by 2, or in this case, 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. So A, the short leg, is equal to 5. Once I have A, the short leg, that's going to allow me to find the long leg. The formula says that the long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of 3. So that's B, which is going to equal, that's the long leg. So short times square root of 3 means 5 times the square root of 3. We're going to use our calculator to change that to a decimal. 5 times 3 square root is equal to 8.66. Let's look at one last example. Initially, when you glance at this, you might feel like you don't have any angle measures. However, notice that you have two angles that are marked equal. When two angles are equal, that's an isosceles triangle. We also have a 90-degree angle, so it's an isosceles right triangle. Remembering that all three angles have to add together to 180. 180 minus 90 leaves 90, divided by 2 means that those angles are each 45. So this is in fact a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle, which is also referred to as an isosceles right triangle. So again, go find that formula. So we have our correct formulas. Now we have to figure out what we have. So I have that side that is labeled 4. This triangle is orientated a little bit different, but notice the 4 is across from the right angle. That means that 4 is the hypotenuse. Since I know the hypotenuse, the sides I'm looking for are the legs. So C and D are both legs. They'll be equal to each other. And the formula says that in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the leg is equal to the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So we'll substitute our numbers in. The hypotenuse was 4, and we're going to divide that by the square root of 2. Grab your calculator. 4 divided by 2, I have to do the square root. So you can see I've typed in 4 divided by the square root of 2. 4 divided by square root of 2, hit equals 2.828. We can just round that to 2.8. And that, remember, is both C and D because my legs are equal in a 45, 45, 90 triangle.